Okay, it's 1 o'clock. I'd like to call this meeting to order. The proceedings of this meeting will be recorded and made available on the internet. I will move on to item 1.2 of our agenda, which is roll call. And I will ask our clerk, Jessie Clark, to please call the roll.
Thank you. Mayor Lamshead, are you present?
I'm present.
Deputy Mayor Armstrong?
Present.
Councillor Franzen?
Present.
Councillor Braybrook?
Present.
Councillor Cadigan?
Present.
For staff, we have Donna Taggart, CIO Treasurer.
Present.
Steve Brockbank, Director of Emergency Services.
Present.
Evan Grieger, Director of Public Works.
Present.
Barb Waldron, Director of Building and Planning, CBO.
Present.
Adele Arbor, Planner.
Present.
Bianca Dragicevic, Deputy Clerk.
Present.
Derek Bertram, Planning Technician. Megan Laskovich, Fire Prevention Inspector.
Present.
Matt Winches, Public Works Coordinator, Waste Supervisor.
Present.
And Jessie Clark, Director of Corporate Services Clerk, is present.
Okay, thank you very much, Jessie. We can move on to item 1.3 of our agenda, which is land acknowledgement and moment of reflection. We respectfully acknowledge that Trent Lakes and Peterborough County are located on the Treaty 20 Mississauga territory and in the traditional territory of the Mississauga and Chippewa nations, collectively known as the Williams Treaty First Nation, which include Alderville, Beausoleil, Curve Lake, Georgina Island, Hiawatha, Rama, and Scugog Island First Nations. Trent Lakes respectfully acknowledges that the Williams Treaty First Nations are the stewards and caretakers of these lands and waters in perpetuity, and that they continue to maintain this responsibility to ensure their health and integrity for generations to come. We will now take a moment to reflect on these principles and our duties and responsibilities as members of council. Thank you very much, everyone. Okay, we can move on to item 2 of our agenda, which is disclosure of pecuniary interest. If anyone on council has a pecuniary interest in an item on the agenda, please disclose it now or anytime during the meeting prior to discussing anything you have an interest in. Let's see, no hands. We can move on to item 3 of our agenda, which is the approval of the agenda is circulated. I would entertain a motion for same. The Deputy Mayor Armstrong for a mover and Councillor Cadigan for a seconder. Any conversation? Seeing none, I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. We can move on to item 4 of our agenda, which is adoption of minutes. We have item 4.1, which is a regular council meeting of June the 4th, and 4.2, which is our statutory public meeting of June the 4th. The Councillor Franzen?
No. Both sets of minutes.
Okay. Do I have a seconder for both sets of minutes to be adopted? See Councillor Cadigan for a seconder. Any other conversation? I'm seeing none. I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. We can move on to item 5 of our agenda, which is committees and boards. Item 5.1 is Ted Spencer, Chair of the Environmental Advisory Committee. And 5.2 is our Environmental Advisory Committee. And 5.3 is the Committee of Adjustment.
He's going to make a presentation. Yep.
Later?
Do that. No.
Okay. And I think we can call on Ted Spence to come and please do your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll try to be fairly brief, and then we can talk about the document in the fine print here. It's very hard to see on the screen, unfortunately. Yeah. I wanted to thank council, first of all, for establishing our committee and for such a thoughtful process leading to such an interesting mix of members, including the council representatives. We really do have an excellent committee with good environmental knowledge and a wide range of interests. And it's taken us a long time to get to a work plan, but that is a reflection, I think, of the diversity. I also want to acknowledge the staff support we've had from Matt and from Bianca. I mean, it's terrific. And they too are truly committed to Trent Lakes environments. Our committee has met 5 times. The first time was really just an orientation, as we were all overwhelmed with all the documents you folks work under. We've had 4 serious business meetings where we've worked towards the production of this work plan. Essentially, we started with a very long list of items that represented areas of interest for members of the committee and issues they had identified. And we consolidated that and we boiled it down and we worked on it over the 4 meetings. And we came up with this consolidated work plan, which we approved in our last meeting and that we hope you will endorse today. It's worth noting that our work plan is intended to cover the remainder of 2024 and also 2025. And anything that's not dealt with before the end of the 2025 cycle will be considered for the 2026 work plan. The priorities are on the screen in the fine print. The first priority that we have established after we went through a ranking and kind of a consolidation process to try to establish what was at the top of our list and what else we wanted to ensure was on that list. Our first priority very broadly is water management. Some objectives of the expected outcomes of this priority include to consider and possibly propose bylaws and policies related to shoreline protection, starting with a review of what we have, and particularly what we have after we get the new county plan and know exactly what has survived that process. So we'll be looking at shoreline protection, other forms of water management, and we may be suggesting that you implement certain measures to allow us for shoreline protection and restoration. We also will be approaching the Recreation Department about the Blue Flag certification process that could potentially apply to the municipal beaches. So that's our first priority. The second priority very broadly is forest protection and forest management in the municipality. Some of the things we will look at is long-term plans to protect some Trent Lakes forests and to manage the rest. And that will include the Catchacoma Forest, which your council on several occasions has endorsed for consideration for possible protection. And we'll be looking at that and probably as an early example of something that needs to move forward if it has any hope of getting consideration by the province. We'll be also looking at tree protection policies and maybe more broadly forest protection policies. The third priority is going to be a natural heritage strategy, which essentially we will be drawing together all of the inventories that are available of the environmental resources in the municipality, and then being able to create a natural heritage strategy down the road. The fourth priority is dark sky certification. We'll be looking at this at our next committee meeting. The idea is to ensure that Trent Lakes participates in actions that improve the quality of the nightscape environment over time, and in terms of planning and other decisions that are being made. The fifth priority we came up with is the emergency management plan. And we look forward to meeting with the fire chief and learning more about emergency management planning, not just fires, obviously, but also other environmental issues related to water, particularly flooding, drought, water quality issues, and so on. So that's on our list. The sixth priority is to, and this comes out of the terms of reference for the committee, is to review the policies and staff reports and plans that come forward from staff through an environmental lens. And in effect, in long term, to get it as kind of an automatic review process before items come to council, that environmental considerations will have been part of the development of that documentation. We have also recognized a priority where we may engage experts, particularly experts from professional input from local experts, because there's a lot of information available to us in the municipality and the surrounding area that we can draw on Up front, we're going to be following up with the Shoreline Protection Group that presented to council last September. Have them brief us and bring us up to date on what they presented to you and what's developed since. And following on from that, we are also looking to meet with the Catchacoma Forest Committee and maybe with the Bancroft-Minden Forest Company, for example, to just fill in our background. A significant part of all of what the committee wants to do early on is really committee education. We want to bring the committee members up to a common level of understanding with respect to these priority issues. The final priority that we have is also carried forward from your terms of reference, which is to monitor and expedite the implementation of the Trent Lakes Climate Action Plan. And we hope to start soon with that, with a review from staff of where things are at. And basically it's upfront. It's another case of committee education. We have to get up to speed on what's intended and what's happening. So that's where we're at the moment. And in terms of overall administrative considerations, I would say that early on committee education is an important part of what we're going to engage in. We've also established that we'll probably set up some subcommittees to look at particular issues and bring them back to the committee. We're still working on timelines for specific goals, but we will be doing that, and you'll see that come back in the minutes of future meetings. With respect to budget, we haven't proposed anything at this point because we don't anticipate in the first year in 2024 that there will be significant expenditures associated with the committee, but we will take full part in your fall process as you start planning for the 2025 budget, and we'll be looking at activities and programs. So that's basically where we're at, and what this document on the screen is the actual work plan. The first column is our priorities, and the second column is a whole set of objectives. And then over in the fifth column, we have the milestones or the actual activities that we would see ourselves undertaking. So I guess members of council have had a chance to view this in a more readable form. And if you have any questions or any points for discussion, I will try to respond, or I'll take it back to the committee and we'll bring it back to you. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Does anybody on council have any questions? Let's see, Councillor Franzen, go ahead.
I was wondering, Ted, have you been able to look into the bird-friendly initiative? Telwyn's doing it, and I believe City of Forth Lake is trying to get that designation.
That hasn't come up, so I'll certainly take it back to our next meeting.
Yeah.
Matt, so you put that on our list. Yes, if you have some more background on it that you can share with us, we'd be glad to have that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other council members have any questions? I'm seeing none. Excellent. Well, thank you, Ted, for that presentation, and it's a very extensive work plan. I'm quite intrigued to get some of this going, so I think we need a motion. Would anyone be prepared to make a motion? Go ahead, Councillor Caddick.
Motion to adopt. Approve.
Okay, I have a motion to adopt and approve that work plan as presented. Do I have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Franzen for a seconder. Any other conversation or comment? I'm seeing none. I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay. Move on to 5.2, which is Environmental Advisory Committee minutes. And the Committee of Adjustment. We can do them both in one. Go ahead, Council.
Motion to approve.
Mayor Armstrong for a mover, and we need a seconder. See Councillor Braybrook for a seconder. Any other conversation about those 2 minutes? I'm seeing none. I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. Now we can move on to 5.4 of our agenda, which is liaison reports and council boards and committees. Does anyone have any liaison reports? I'm seeing none at this time. We can move on to item 6 of our agenda, which is our public meeting. So I would need a motion to suspend our regular council meeting and start our open meeting. Councillor Franzen for a mover and Councillor Cadigan for a seconder. I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion is carried. We are now in our public meeting and we can go to item 6.1. Is Glenna Urex. Would you like to please come to the podium and Gail, sorry, my apologies. They usually spell that out for me, so it's a lot easier.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I've been excited to present this information to you and the public that's here. So we were lucky enough, sort of in late 2022, to get some federal funding to do floodplain mapping on Novice Creek and Municipality River. So it's a cost sharing, a 50-50 funded by the municipality, 50-50 for from the government. So which we were lucky enough to get and be able to move forward with these studies.
Just say next slide. She's doing it upstairs.
Oh, perfect. Okay, next slide. So just so everybody knows what a floodplain is, essentially it is the adjacent land to a water course or water body that could be subjected to flooding hazards during high water, essentially. Next slide. Okay, so the importance of floodplain mapping. So it assists with the development of municipal emergency management plans to identify areas of concern. It also informs municipal staff, conservation authority staff, and the public where floodplains exist and provides associate flood elevations to go with the floodplain information. It also protects people and property from death and damage by regulating existing and future development and using accurate and defensible data. A point that's not on here is that it also will save people money if in fact that they need to do a flood study if they were required to do a permit. So this information then becomes publicly available and they don't have to do their study themselves. Next slide, please. Okay, so these are the types of things that we're trying to avoid. Past development didn't necessarily take into account flooding. A lot of people like to build near water. It's historically been a thing forever, and we just want to make sure that everybody is safe. So next slide. Okay, so to get into the nitty-gritty of floodplain mapping. So there's a lot of background information that goes into the big computer model that ends up delineating where the flooding happens. So something that is extremely important is LiDAR data. Now, we were lucky enough that Peterborough County had flown LiDAR through AMAFRA in, I believe, 2019. And this cut the cost of the project by a lot. It's like hundreds of thousands of dollars to fly LiDAR. And it's the base of floodplain mapping. So it's essentially creates a digital representation of the topography of the land. Other information that goes into it would be ecological land classification layers. So it's just the land use of the area around, which they can use to determine like infiltration rates of water and how fast it will go off the land and into the creek. The soils information as well helps with that. Some other information that is really key is any historical flood studies that we have. Luckily with Novice Creek, we had one done in 1988. It's a little outdated, but it still had useful information in it that we were able to incorporate within the Novice Creek floodplain mapping study. We were also lucky enough that we've had a flow gauge on Novice Creek. So that information, we essentially have a historic record of flows through Novice Creek, which help calibrate the model because we have an understanding of what the flows are like at certain periods of time whenever we had kind of rainfall. Fortunately, with Municipality River, we did not have a flow gauge. So there was other measures that they took, the engineers took in order to account for that. I guess the next bit, if you just want to go to the next slide. Okay, so back to LiDAR. So this essentially this shows how it's taken. So what they had done was they had a plane fly over and kind of like a grid pattern. And what it does is it shoots a laser down to the ground. And then it's able to get, I believe this one was around 4 to 5 points per square meter. It's very high accuracy, and it essentially will give literally a digital representation of what the ground is like. Now, the issue with LiDAR is that the laser bounces off of water. So when that happens, that's where I come in. So go to the next slide. I think I'm getting ahead of myself. Okay, so the laser will bounce off of water. So that's where I come in and I will survey the bottom of the creek as to fill in that gap, as you can kind of see here. So on to the next slide, you'll be able to see me in a creek. There you go. So literally with GPS, we'll go and we'll break the creek down into transects. So it's usually between 100 meter to 300 meter sections, and then we'll take a cross section. And then we start on the top of the bank on one side, work our way through the creek bottom up to the other side. Now, the challenges with Nogi's Creek and Municipality River is that they're deeper than I am tall. So we had to actually take a canoe out on Municipality for half of it, walk the other half because the water started to come down during the summer, as you may know, and we were able to collect it that way. Where with Nogi's Creek, we actually took our work boat up for right at the launch there at the 36 bridge, all the way up to where we couldn't go any further, and we just used a very long pole with the GPS on it and somebody else beside me to hold the boat steady, and we're able to take information. Now the GPS itself takes like sub-centimeter elevation data, so it's very accurate data, and it's all called georeference to a certain datum, so I won't go into that depth, but okay, next slide please. Okay, so all the information that I just talked about goes into what's called that's floodplain mapping model. Now there's two models. It's a hydrologic and hydraulic model. Now I pulled a definition from NRCan Canada, the feds, and I'm going to read it here because I will not be able to memorize it. So it's the hydrologic modeling estimates the range of potential flood flows. So that's the hydrologic. Now the hydraulic modeling calculates the water levels along the river for those flows. Now, we hired on Water's Edge Engineering. They specialize in floodplain mapping to do the engineering and the modeling for this project. And what they did was follow a long list of provincial and federal standards that are set up to essentially guide these processes. And that also, the standards also, we have to follow in order to collect the data to make sure that it's accurate enough and meets the standards. And then all these standards also go into making sure that we were able to essentially meet the requirements for the funding. So it was checked a lot along the way, and for an even further check, we actually had all this information peer reviewed by a third party engineering firm in order to make sure that this information is accurate, makes logical sense on the land, and shows where this water will go during these storm events. Now, I keep saying storm events. Now, you've probably heard of Hurricane Hazel. That's one of the provincial standards for big storms. So it's a certain amount of water over a duration time. Now, Hurricane Hazel is not best representation of Central Ontario. So we look at the Timmins event. Timmins had a big storm, I believe it was in the 80s or 90s, that they put as the provincial standard, or the 100-year. I'm sure everybody's heard of this 100-year term. And it's just another hypothetical storm that's provincial standard that they run through the computer model. So essentially, you get all this base information, put it into the model. So the model is only as good as the information you put in, and then it delineates where the water will go based on these big events. Next slide, please. Okay, so just to give you an idea of Nogi's Creek, what it looks like if you haven't actually gone up it or paddled it, I highly recommend. It's really nice. You can only get to so many points in it where you have to stop and turn around, but further up, it's really beautiful. So you can go to the next slide, and we're into our maps. So this is the final product of, or part of the product. You get a technical report as well as our mapping. And this essentially will show the public and landowners and anyone that wants to develop where the water will go during these big events. Now the Timmins storm was the most conservative of the two. So it's the Timmins or 100-year. And whatever is the most conservative in regards to flood elevations is the one that you go with for regulatory purposes. So in this case, the Timmins was the highest, the same with Municipality. So you can cycle through the next map. There we go. And just to briefly explain, if anyone has any questions after the fact, it's kind of hard to see, but essentially the red is where the floodplain is. And then each yellow line is the cross section that the modelers use, which is also associated with a flood elevation, which is in those white and black bubbles at the end. And then that's the main portion. So yeah, keep going. I think there's 3 for this. And there we go. And you can see Novies Creek outlets into Pigeon Lake. Now, as you can see, there is a lot of cottages and permanent homes along Novies Creek, approximately between 170 to 200 properties. So that was part of the reason why this was a good candidate for a project, is because there is an area of concern and we don't have updated information on it. And with climate change, you never know. Flows can increase. We're going to get random storms every once in a while. It's not necessarily something that isn't uncommon anymore. And you're going to start seeing with provincial standards, they're going to start incorporating, which we kind of did in this study, the 500 and 1,000-year storm, just to see where that water will go. So things are changing, and this is really good information, very accurate information that I'm confident that people can use to kind of better it's safely developed and just are aware that this could potentially impact them. On to the next map, please. We've got some photos. Okay, so Municipality River. So this is what I was talking about, walking a bit of treacherous terrain as the water levels dropped. We were able to, I missed one major point. So in the background information, we also surveyed all the bridges, weirs, and any big culverts that were on there. These particular areas were had bridges and weirs, so we were able to measure the openings and GPS the structure, and that was also incorporated in the model. So I apologize for missing that. Okay, on to the next map, please. Okay, so here's Municipality, and this is up at Highway 36. And you can keep cycling through. I guess one other big point, we're lucky in this area is because we do have a lot of wetlands. So they act kind of like a sponge, and it's really good to have that because it retains water and keeps water back. So if we were to develop on those wetlands, then you could potentially see these flows increase over time. And that's part of the reason why there's kind of regulations in place, just a good piece of information. Next, please. Okay, it's really hard to see, but you can kind of see like a little X and black dot. That's one of the weirs that we surveyed. You can keep going down, please. And out into Little Bob Lake. So, yeah, I think that's it. Maybe one more slide. Nope. Okay. Thank you very much for having me. Any questions? Happy
Thank
to
you
answer.
very much. I've had the opportunity on many occasions to travel the Municipality River from its inception to its outlets.
Yep.
I'm very familiar with that river. And I thought that little blue arrow on there was your canoe, but it's not.
It could have been at one point.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll ask any comments from council. Go ahead, Kathy.
Galen, good to see you again.
Yeah.
Through you, Mayor. I'm wondering how far up Municipality you went.
We went, we go back 3 slides, you'll be able to see exactly where we were. It's just north of the 36 bridge. There you go. So that's where the study limit is, so where that green line is.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And bridges and weirs, were there none up past that, I guess?
No, 36 down. So between the 36 and the north, is it Northview?
Snowmobile trail goes across there someplace.
Okay.
Yeah, but
There happens to be a large bridge on Charlie Allen Road.
yeah, Charlie Allen as well, I guess.
And then some culverts north of that on the Forest Access Road. But you have to duck to get under.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions from council? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Armstrong.
Thank you, Mayor Lamson. Two comments. First of all, thank you for the explanation, the lay explanation.
Yeah.
This is the first time I've truly understood how flood mapping is done and what goes into it. So thank you for that. Second comment is just I wanted to point out, Galen, that you are the representative for Kawartha Conservation on our Environmental Advisory Committee, which we very much welcome the expertise that he brings to that and local knowledge, as well as his colleague Matthew, who was here, Mantle, who was at our last meeting. The only question that I had, it's not even really for you, but it is how do we, as a municipality, and it's probably more to Adele, how do we as a municipality build that into our, I suppose it's our comprehensive zoning bylaws, which we will be updating once we get the official plan and the provincial policy statement. So I don't know if either one of you want to address that, perhaps? Like, what do we do with this data now that we have it from a municipal standpoint?
I think-
Go ahead, Adele. I do have a quick comment after though.
Go
Through
ahead,
you,
Adele.
Mr. Mayor, it's the intent of planning staff to review the information, and we will be looking at updating our official plan policies as well as our zoning bylaws. So as Galen had mentioned, it's an opportunity for the public not to have to do floodplain mapping for any redevelopments along those sections. And it was a great project for the municipality to undertake, and it assists the residents who are trying to build new buildings, construction on their properties, or, you know, tearing down some old cottages and building new, and we have better understanding of where that floodplain is. So.
Thank you very much. And go ahead, Gail.
Yeah,
if you have another comment.
and I know, so neighboring municipality, City of Kawartha Lakes, for Burnt River, you've heard of Burnt River. I know they just recently updated their, I guess the bylaw for Somerville, and they've included the updated floodplain mapping elevations that we had done for them with the study we had done in 2019, just so that residents are aware it's right in the bylaw. So I don't know if that's something that you consider here.
Excellent.
Great, thank
Yeah,
you.
Thank you very much. Okay, I can open it up to the gallery for anyone in the gallery has any questions. Go ahead, Ted Spence.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm just curious as to why the study did not include Bass Lake and Crystal Lake, where there's also a lot of properties subject to potential flooding.
So, through you, Mr. Mayor. So what we had done is we took for Nody's Creek, we took the historic flood study that was done and essentially repeated it because we had good data on that. With Municipality, I think we looked at the Trent Lakes official plan. There is kind of an environmental protection zone, I believe, in there, and we took that as like a study limit. It's not to say that we can't do something like that in the future, because the federal and provincial government are recognizing that things are changing. Climate change is a big thing, and that there's going to be more money available. I think with this the FIMP program, which we received this money from, the funding will be available until 2028. So there'll be other opportunities to apply for projects and potentially do that.
Okay,
Your conservation authority does include Crystal Lake
Yep.
and Bass Lake, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
And the county of Peterborough is going to be doing some watershed mapping in the near future. I think we've agreed on that at county level. So, and I think you have a question, Councillor Braber. Go
Thank
ahead.
you, through you, Mayor. Thanks very much, Gail,
Yeah.
for explaining all the flood mapping details. Just a couple of questions. How many dwellings have you identified through the new mapping that would be affected by a major event?
So I haven't counted the exact number. I know that there was, when we applied, there was between 170 and 200 properties that were directly adjacent that would be impacted. I'm sorry, I don't have a number for you, but I can get that for you at a later date.
That's okay,
Yeah.
just generally.
Yeah.
Now, this may not be within your purview, but do you know how that would affect people's insurance?
So that is a very good question. It comes up all the time. You're going to look at, don't quote me on this, but I think it's Manulife. One of the big insurance companies is no longer insuring for flooding. They're completely taking that out. You'll see in certain areas that you'll have to pay a premium if they even offer it for flooding. And the insurance companies unfortunately don't use this level of detailed information in order to kind of assess what's going on in someone's property. They have their own assessment and their own assessment mapping tool that they've come up with to kind of make those decisions. As far as property values go, the flooding is kind of, it's always there. The floodplains naturally exist. So any property that's adjacent to water could potentially be subject to flooding. So this is one of those things. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Just
One more?
the second question, it's sort of two prongs, so I guess it's three
Yeah.
questions. So how many flood events have occurred on Municipality? And how long have you had flow gauges in place?
Okay, so Municipality, we didn't have any flow information and I have no historic data on it. Nogies Creek, I don't think there's been an event since, I don't have historic data on that either. So it's one of those things that potentially will happen. Could happen tomorrow. It's just one of those things. So it's good that at least landowners are aware of where the water will go in these big events that could happen.
All right, I guess that ties into the insurance is if there's no data on this particular, 170 plus properties, if there's no data to be relied upon, it's just unfortunate that the insurance companies may or may not just use it generally. As you said, they don't go as in depth and analyzing through this flood mapping. They just basically have a look at it and make their determination. So it's unfortunate that people on the Municipality may be subject to that sort of scrutiny.
Yeah, so hopefully, like within our watershed, we'd like at some point to implement more flow gauges just to have a historic record. Because if you can catch those big storms as they happen, it just helps calibrate the model. That's what we did for Burnt River. We had floods in 2013, 17, and 19, and I was out there with a GPS recording the high water marks so that we have, because there's a flow gauge on there, so we were able to look at how much water what had happened for precipitation, what the flows are like, and then look at the model and what it was spitting out, and you could see that it would match where those high water marks were. So ideally, you have that information.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much. And I see Janet Klein, you have a question. Go ahead.
Yeah, I live up near the sanctuary and it is beautiful. You don't have to tell. But I was wondering, where are the flow gauges?
Okay, so there's one. So Ports Conservation has it in place, and it's at.
Is it on the bridge?
Yeah, one.
Across the little bridge that goes across from Bass Lake to someone's house.
I think there's I think 113 or 116.
Try to keep our comments going through the chairs.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, that's good. I mean, it's good conversation. I'm enjoying it.
I have a second question.
Go ahead,
Mayor
please.
Land said, would this be representative too if the dam failed?
Through there. So I don't think that was part of the analysis, and the dam itself, I believe it's M&R that owns it. So I'm not sure if they would have their own study done in regards to, like they have to maintain, I'd imagine, and have to, but unfortunately that wasn't part of this study. I think it's such a big amount of water that even if the dam went, I don't think it would matter because it's just that much water.
Right, so that would be representative likely, yeah. And through you, Mayor, they do come through our property and to maintain it, they go back to the dam.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they do come usually once a week. And I have one more question through you, Mayor Land.
Sure.
Did you see any differences between now and the historical data?
Actually, through you, Mayor, yes, for at least the Nogies Creek. So it shrinks and widens for floodplain in different places. I should have put a comparison map in this presentation. If you're interested in, by all means, reach out to me and I can forward that on to you or anyone else that's interested.
And through you again, Mayor, where would this be found in the township once you're gone and this, like, where is it filed? Where?
So I believe we're going to pass, if you, Mayor, we're going to pass this on to the municipality, and I believe it'll go online, at least it's on our website as well. So it should be publicly available, and that's part of our agreement with the government, that this is publicly available information.
Thank you, it's very interesting. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead. Please state your name for the record.
I guess my name is Peter Thatchuk, and through you, Mr. Mayor, I guess there's no interest like self-interest, so I'm concerned, and maybe my questions are premature, but I have a vacant, I believe, non-conforming piece of land on Noby's Creek, which I understand is currently buildable if I look at the requisite setbacks that are currently required. I guess the premature part of the question is with this new map, if it's different than what the understanding, is it possible that my buildable lot could be a non-buildable lot, or would I more than likely, if I have sufficient depth, just be required to push it further back than the floodplain? And I have a lot of depth on this lot, and maybe, and I don't need to waste anyone's time with that, maybe you can direct me to who I should be speaking to at the township in the future.
Okay, thank you very much. I think Adele, you would probably be the best one to answer that question at this time.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, if the gentleman would like to provide information to the planning department concerning the property, we will conduct a pre-consultation and look at the new mapping and what's existing and provide information on how to go forward to do any construction on the property.
Okay.
I guess really the question was, is it possible that I've got about 1,600 feet depth that I'm not going to be able to build on that lot? It's not more stringent requirements that scare me. It's, oh my God, all of a sudden you've got a non-buildable lot.
Mhm.
I think that will be looked at when you look at the floodplain mapping, and there's provisions in the building code for bigger footings and things for stuff. So
Thank you.
I think, yeah. Thank you for your question. Who else has a question? Go ahead, please state your name for the
Yeah,
record.
I'm Jackie Milne. I just had a question. I think it was brought up that the county of Peterborough is looking at watersheds, watershed mapping. I just wonder, is there a collaboration between conservation and the county of Peterborough? Because it sounds like it could be looking at the floodplains and watersheds might be good.
To you, Mr. Mayor. So with the county of Peterborough, their municipality outside of the conservation jurisdiction, pardon me. So Orca might be partnered up. I'm not sure what they're doing with the county of Peterborough, but potentially yes. But for our jurisdiction, we are currently just within our Court of Conservation jurisdiction, and we have a number of municipalities that we partner up with to do very similar things. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you. And I think the gentleman behind you had a question. Please state your name.
My name is Carl Black, and I wonder if Dr. Crossman from the University in Toronto, who was studying fish habitat, has still used that area above the off the dam where you were talking about. They still have that as a fish sanctuary.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
I believe it's still a sanctuary. I think it still has the signs up for the reg, so it's still protected. And there's no fishing.
There's no change to it.
Not that I'm aware of. That's outside of our pretty, so.
And what was your name? We missed your name, sorry.
Carl Beck.
Carl Beck, thank you. Okay, any other questions out of the gallery? I'm seeing none. Any other questions from council? I'm seeing none. We'd entertain a motion.
We'll just get a motion to reconvene.
Okay, we'll get a, sorry, my apologies. I would entertain a motion to reconvene our regular council meeting. Councillor Brayberg for a mover, Councillor Cadigan for a seconder. I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried.
And then we can receive the information and support the.
Now we would. Get a go ahead, Councillor Brayberg.
Have motion to receive and support.
Do I have a seconder for that motion? Seeing Councillor Franzen for a seconder. Any other conversation? Seeing none, I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion is carried. Thank you very much for all the work done on that, and I look forward to expanding that, I think. That's some good comments there about expanding that to more regions in our municipality.
Thank you very much for the opportunity, and by all means, give me a call if you have any
Yeah,
questions.
yeah, and please, people in the gallery, reach out to our planning department if you need more information. Okay, we can move on now to item 7 of our agenda, which is presentations. Item 7.1, Sarah Groves, Account Manager, Zone 5 of the Municipal Property Assessment Corporation. Would you like to come to the podium and do your presentation, please, Sarah? Welcome.
Good afternoon. Thank you. Okay, so good afternoon, Mayor Lamshead and Council. My name is Sarah Groves, and I'm an account manager at the Municipal Property Assessment Corporation. Myself and my account support coordinator, who is here with me today, Victoria Anderlich, together we support all of the municipalities in the County of Peterborough, the County of Haliburton, the City of Peterborough, and the City of Port the Lakes. Today, I want you to come away with a greater understanding of the property assessment and taxation system and know exactly where you can turn should you have a question. Next slide, please. So let's start off with the 4 key players in the Ontario property assessment and tax system, who
Okay,
each
can
have
you get the microphone a little closer to you, maybe? Oh, no, that doesn't. And we've had trouble with the back, people at the back. Maybe if you want to move ahead a little bit. We had the same issue last time, I think. You know, what simple solution.
He's going home, he's decided.
You're done with that? Okay. I can yell if you'd like, but I don't think it's going to help. Thank you very much for your question.
You're welcome. Good luck with your results.
Thank you. Okay, sorry, Sarah, you
That's
can
okay.
continue.
So each of these 4 players have a different role and interest in the process. The provincial government, specifically the Ministry of Finance, is responsible for setting assessment and taxation legislation, as well as policies. They also determine the education property tax rate. There's also an independent body that adjudicates appeals of MPAC's assessed values, commonly referred to as the ARB or Assessment Review Board. They also fall under the jurisdiction of the province. MPAC is a non-profit independent corporation funded by all Ontario municipalities. Our role is to accurately assess and classify more than 5.6 million properties in Ontario. We do this in compliance with the Assessment Act and regulations set by the Government of Ontario. We are accountable to the province, municipalities, and property taxpayers of Ontario through a board of directors that is comprised of provincial, municipal, and taxpayer representatives that are appointed by the Minister of Finance. Municipalities then determine budget requirements, set your tax rates, and collect property taxes to pay for municipal services. Municipalities use MPAC's assessments and established tax rates to determine your tax requirement to ratepayers. And finally, the property owners pay the property tax bill and help set market value through ongoing property purchases and sales. Next slide, please. Each and every day, we monitor the market and assess newly built and renovated properties in order to keep our data current. We also periodically update every single property assessment in Ontario based on the same legislated valuation date, and we call this an assessment update or reassessment. This is when we determine what every single property in Ontario could have reasonably sold for in its current state and condition at a particular point in time. Regular revaluation of properties ensures that assessments stay up to date, and similar properties of similar value in the same municipality pay similar property taxes. Provincial legislation determines when MPAC can conduct a province-wide assessment update and sets the valuation date for each update cycle. Next slide, please. Ontario's property tax system is based on everyone paying their portion of what it costs to deliver community services. To do this, all properties are assigned a value at a common valuation date. Current value assessment is market value at a point in time. It's the price that a property might reasonably be expected to sell for if sold by a willing seller to a willing buyer on an open market after appropriate time and exposure. Regular revaluation of properties ensures that assessments stay up to date and similar properties of similar value in the same municipality pay similar property taxes. Next slide, please. So as you can imagine, maintaining Ontario's property database is very important. Property data is continuously updated so that municipal records are accurate when our municipal stakeholders are making important tax decisions. Maintaining Ontario's property database includes inspecting and assessing new construction, additions, and renovations promptly. We respond to property owner inquiries and work to help them understand their property assessments. We also support municipalities through offerings like Municipal Connect, where our municipal stakeholders can obtain assessment-related information. We have ongoing conversations and engagements and work collaboratively on projects that are important to our municipal stakeholders, like digital building permitting, processing tax applications, land severances and consolidations, as well as important statutory duties such as handling requests for reconsiderations and maintaining people data by tracking school support for the over 5.6 million properties in Ontario. Next slide, please. So let's talk briefly about valuation. In Ontario, there are 3 industry-wide standardized approaches to valuing properties. The first of these approaches is the direct comparison approach, which is used primarily for residential properties, condos, and vacant land. With this approach, we analyze sales of comparable properties that were sold for a similar or identical use as the property to be valued to provide an indication of value. It's also important that only valid open market transactions are used in this analysis. Condos with services that are paid by the resident would be reflected in that sale price. And if a new condo owner decides to pay to be located at a specific condo development, even though they must pay for some of these services, we value based on what that willing buyer is willing to pay the seller. Then we have the income approach used for industrial malls, office buildings, shopping centers, and a variety of other property types. With income producing properties, the ability to earn revenue is directly tied to its current value. So to value these properties, we need to determine how much revenue it could generate as well as the sale price. To clarify, it's not the revenue being generated by the occupant, but rather the rent that the occupant is paying to the landlord that we use to value in the income approach. Lastly, the cost approach, which is typically used for general purpose industrial properties, small retail, warehousing. This approach is used when a property type is unique and rarely sold on the open market, as we cannot rely on either the direct comparison approach or the income approach in order to come to a current value. The cost approach is a 3-step process, and first we calculate the cost of replacing the buildings, the structures, and any other accessible fixtures on the land. We apply a deduction for depreciation on all structures due to age, as well as any functional or economic adjustment if there are conditions impacting the value of that property. Finally, we determine the value of that land and add it to the previous calculations to produce an overall valuation. Next slide, please. So obviously those residential properties make up the main footprint of the assessed properties in your community. So when we're looking at the valuation of a residential home, although our analysis tool considers over 200 factors, the above 5 factors that are shown here make up approximately 85% of a typical value. So this includes the location, the lot dimensions, the exterior square footage, the quality of construction, as well as the age of the property, which may be adjusted if there's been any major renovations or additions that have occurred. Next slide, please. So after we assess a property or change in assessment, we mail property owners a property assessment notice. Sometimes property owners do not agree with the assessed value. A property owner might then connect with you to let you know that they disagree with the assessment. But it's important to remember that property assessments are not taxation. If you get an inquiry, you can help us by asking the property owner a few questions. If they could have sold their property on January 1st, 2016 for the assessed value, because that is the current valuation date. If they visited About My Property to review the information that MPAC has on file and make sure that it's correct. They can also use About My Property to conduct comparable research on similar properties and assessed values in their area. If they are still concerned with their assessed value after confirming this information, they're able to file a request for reconsideration through the aboutmyproperty.ca website, free of charge, and we'll take a look at the values, and essentially all we want to do is make sure that it's correct. So we'll make any adjustments as we look through that request for reconsideration. Next slide, please. So let's spend a moment to address the relationship between property taxes and assessment. Assessments distribute taxes. They do not determine the taxes paid. When a province-wide assessment update occurs, the most important factor is not how much the assessed value of a property has changed, but rather how the assessed value has changed relative to the average change in that class within the community. Next slide, please. Our focus is always on building awareness about property assessment and taxation and MPAC's role. We understand that property assessment can be complex, and we hear that from both municipalities and property owners. That's why we communicate with properties owners and Ontarians more than ever these days in order to help them understand. They can then greater understand the property assessment and taxation system, learn more about who we are, and easily find the information and resources that they need. From social media campaigns and educational videos to our first-time homeowners hub, where new property owners can access information to help them navigate the property assessment and taxation system. We continue to focus our efforts on providing helpful and easy to understand resources directly to property owners, as well as to municipalities in order to help you understand property owner questions. Next slide, please. This is a new campaign that was launched at the end of February, and it's called the Insights campaign. This campaign focused on how the residential property landscape has evolved in the last decade, specifically the housing inventory. And what we've learned is that year over year, price increases are driving buyers to look at communities further outside the Greater Toronto Horseshoe area. Communities with homes under $500,000 are becoming increasingly scarce, and the type and location of homes with a value of less than $750,000 has also shifted. So what does this mean? This means there's a limited options for first-time home buyers. In 2013, 74% of residential properties in Ontario had a home value estimate of less than $500,000, while 91% of those had a value of less than $750,000. Today, that number has dropped to just 19% and 48% respectively. So the reason for this drop in available homes under $500,000? Current home prices are a reflection of various economic forces at play. Factors like supply and demand, increased construction and labor costs, as well as inflation are all part of what's driving today's housing prices. To find properties for less than $500,000, potential buyers can look to cities such as Sudbury, Sault Ste. Marie, North Bay, Thunder Bay, and Windsor, while homes under $750,000 can be found in cities such as Ottawa, London, Kitchener, Kingston, Barrie, and Peterborough. We hope that data like this will help property owners understand the changing real estate landscape and where they can look to find housing opportunities throughout Ontario that may best suit their future needs. You can visit this website on mpac.ca, and there's an interactive housing inventory map where you can learn specifically about your municipality as well as neighboring ones. Next slide, please. So in order to help new homeowners navigate property assessment, our first-time homeowners hub provides answers to some common questions we receive. Over 713,000 property owners across Ontario received a property assessment notice in the fall, some for the very first time. For many new homeowners, the property assessment notice mailing would have been their first encounter with MPAC, and we understand that they may have questions. To help address common questions from new homeowners, we've launched this new homeowners hub. Common themes explored on this hub include what their property assessment notice is and what it isn't, the relationship between property assessment and taxation, their assessed value, how we use sales to determine the value of a home, the building permit process, what to inspect from their first property inspection, and even school support. Next slide, please. And last year, you may remember that we had the Myths and Facts campaign. Most recently, we also launched our Home Values Matter campaign. So for many homeowners, their property is their single largest asset, and its value can have a significant impact on their lives. This campaign aims to help homeowners and prospective homeowners understand MPAC's role in the property market space. Next slide, please. So this is a video. I don't remember offhand whether we watched it last time, but if we have the opportunity, we can watch it now.
How long is the video? I think we're fine. We're doing well time-wise. We can play, there we are.
Property taxes are based on your home's value. What you might not know is that an increase in your home's value doesn't necessarily mean your taxes will go up. To explain, let's take a look at how your property taxes are calculated. Imagine there's a town that only has 3 homes, and they're each worth a different amount. The total cost to provide all of the town's services is $1,200. This is collected through property taxes. Each homeowner pays property taxes based on their home's assessed value. So we take the total cost of services and divide it by the total property value. This tax rate is applied to all the houses to get enough money to pay for the town's services. Each homeowner pays according to the assessed value of their home, and every 4 years, the houses are reassessed. Let's say all 3 properties have gone up equally in value. The total cost of services hasn't changed, but the total property value has increased. When this happens, there will be a decrease in the tax rate. Now, when we apply that new rate on all the homes, everyone still pays the same. Now, let's say another 4 years has gone by, and these homes are reassessed. During this time, the house on the right gains more market value than the other 2. The total value of all the homes have increased, which means the town has to calculate a new tax rate. With this new tax rate, the first 2 homes will actually pay less than the home on the right that was reassessed at a higher value. Since the cost of services hasn't changed, the town doesn't need to collect more property taxes on the whole. However, since property taxes are based on a home's value, taxes for each individual home could potentially go up or down based on the rest of the homes. So, what happens when the cost to provide services goes up? Well, it means more property taxes need to be collected from every home, and a new tax rate is calculated. To get the new rate, we take that amount that the town now needs and divide it by all of the property values. The new rate is applied to all the homes, and now everyone has to pay the new tax amount to continue to fund the town's services. So let's review. 1, property taxes are based on the assessed value of a home. If all assessments go up equally, everyone pays the same. 2, if all assessments do not go up equally, there's a redistribution of the tax. 3, if the town's cost to provide services increases, the municipality may choose to increase the tax rate. When this happens, everyone pays their share of that increase. And that explains the relationship between property value and property taxes.
Okay. Thank you very
Perfect.
much.
Thank you. So your municipal staff do have access to all of these resources that I'm speaking about, and then I'll continue to speak about. The links to these videos are available online, and they can be used in your social media in your own efforts to educate property owners as well. Now, the best tool to support property owners is About My Property, or sometimes referred to as AMP, because we like our acronyms at MPAC. For those unfamiliar, About My Property is a valuable tool that lets property owners easily review the information that we have on file for their property. Once logged in, property owners can learn how their property was assessed, compare their home to others in the area, and if they disagree, file a request for reconsideration. About My Property also increases the transparency and accessibility, empowering homeowners with self-serve access to vital information. Users can view property information, valuation, sale information, site information, the information on their structures on their property, as well as any locational influences. All notices are also available on AMP or About My Property dating back to 2012, as long as the ownership hasn't changed in that time. We only allow the current owners to see the visible notices. It also allows the customer to confirm or update their school support. There's methodology guides, market valuation reports on there as well. Now, the Browse My Neighborhood tool allows users to navigate properties using the interactive map or a search function. So users can view snapshots of up to 100 properties and save 24 of those favorites in order to create, view, and download customized reports with that information. From the landing page on About My Property, like I briefly mentioned, Property owners and tenants also have the ability to update their school support. Next slide, please. So this school support portal was launched online in Q1 of 2023. This is an online mechanism for property owners and tenants to update their school support. MPAC is legislatively required to collect school support information and provide it in the assessment role to each municipality and school board. To support property owners in changing this designation, this online portal allows property owners or tenants registered with MPAC to designate their school support. By default, property owners and tenants in Ontario support the English Public School Board. Property owners and tenants do follow a little bit of a different path once in the system, but they're able to do the same thing in updating their school support and receiving a confirmation once that's submitted. You'll also see on the screen here that it's a little bit blurry up here, but there is a paper copy of the application to direct school support, so we still do accept those if users prefer that over the online option. Next slide, please. So we liaise with municipalities on a regular basis. We completed 839 engagements with council, one-on-one meetings with elected officials last year. We attended municipal conferences and we're attending 15 in 2024 as well. We had nearly 2,000 attendees in 2023 attend our webinars and training videos, and we provide ongoing support for MPAC products and services. Meeting with our municipal partners is crucial to building strong relationships and understanding the communities that we serve and live in. MPAC staff work closely with municipal administration and municipal councils to educate and share valuable information. In 2023, we participated in over 1,800 municipal engagements. We managed over 18,000 municipal inquiries, which are the day-to-day business requests and activities that we undertake to support our municipal partners. Top 3 categories of those municipal inquiries are property specific, so things like ownership corrections, zoning and planning, bylaws, and the property assessment values. Also municipal mailing address updates and plans and severances. An inquiry is not a negative thing. It's a business activity or touch point to deliver our core services to your municipality. And we monitor this activity as part of our municipal service level agreement. And as mentioned, our digital toolkits available on mpac.ca can help municipalities, including yourselves, mitigate any misinformation and provide support and resources to educate and inform property owners. Next slide, please. So you may be familiar with any of these 3 reports. They were provided to you a few months ago and may have been added as correspondence. Our 2023 performance report highlights our accountability and transparency as a public-facing organization, as well as meeting our goals in areas such as capturing new assessment, customer and stakeholder engagement, and operational efficiencies. The 2023 annual report highlights the many milestones we've achieved together over the year and of our pursuit of excellence. And we encourage you to read these reports that can be found online. So the last slide is just to let you know, don't hesitate to reach out to me. Each municipality has their own dedicated account management team at MPAC, should you have any questions related to MPAC or our work. So my contact information is first there, my regional manager, Lynn Cunningham, and then my support, account support coordinator, Victoria, is also listed there as well. Well, thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. And I have had a couple of residents contact you and they did an assessment and their taxes went down. So sometimes that does work if you're from the ratepayers' point of view. Okay. Go ahead, Councillor Brady.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Thanks very much, Sarah, for your presentation. And sorry, I know we were trying to connect last year for the one-on-one.
Yeah.
So, but sorry we weren't able to coordinate that. I'm going to poke the hornet's nest here, and I'm going to ask you, as it relates to the income approach when valuing properties, how is MPAC addressing short-term rentals and the potential for these high earners to fall through the cracks as far as an appropriate assessed value is concerned? And how is MPAC dealing with this animal? And I'll give you the other question as well. If the property is sold and it reverts back to just a residential or a recreational property and not STR, does that then allow the new owner to ask for a reassessment and have that valuation of the property come back down to the pre-STR.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Lamset. Currently, legislation dictates that these types of properties are assessed in the residential tax class.
It's just, sorry about that.
All right,
That was a lot of questions.
that was
That was a very short and concise answer.
So that's legislated by the province. So we can't, is there any way for that, like have any lobbying, or how could that be changed? I mean, as you can appreciate, short-term rentals is an issue everywhere, and specifically, I'll speak specifically with Trent Lakes. As far as, you know, some of these earners, I know there's 3 on my fire route, and one of them was up for sale and was advertising of 150 to 250,000 income per year. So, I mean, that's a potential. What, is there something that could trigger it to flip to the income approach? I know it's not within your purview, it's the province. Is there anything that we can do as a municipality to lobby to have that changed?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Lamson. Currently at this time, as I mentioned, it's legislation that drives that residential class on those properties. And I would encourage you to reach out for alternative opportunities to lobby your local representatives.
Sure.
If you'd like to see a change. We do ensure that we pick up sales information to ensure we have accurate property details. And we do review sales as well as building permits that may trigger us to come out and take a look at properties.
Great, thank you.
That just gave me a question for our MPP tomorrow night. There you go.
Yes, please.
Okay, go ahead, Deputy Mayor Armstrong.
Thank you, Mayor Lamson. I have a question to build on that, and then I have another question. The build on it and unfair, do you know if any other provinces have different legislation around assessments of short-term rentals?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Lamson. I do not. I'm not aware of anything across the province or across Canada.
And the second question, you've never heard this one before, I know. Since we're dealing with 2016 current value assessments, and I know it's the provincial government that determines whether or not we do a new current value assessment. Can you tell us anything about when we might expect that to in fact happen or be required?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Lamson. At this time, we have no indication when the next property assessment or update will occur. Properties are still valued on January 1st, 2016. We do time date everything. So even if you build a new house right now, we are adjusting that so that everything is valued as of that equal date to ensure equity across the province.
Okay, any other questions? I'm seeing none. Thank you very much for your presentation, Sarah. That was very informative. And if anybody gets questions from residents, please pass them on to MPAC. Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to receive.
Okay. Do I have a seconder for that motion? Seeing Deputy Mayor Armstrong for a seconder. Any other conversation? I'm seeing none. I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. Thank you very much. Okay, we can move on to item 8 of our agenda, which is delegations. We have none. Item 9 is staff reports. 9.1 is public works. 9.1.1, Evan Grieger, our Director of Public Works. Would you like to speak to this item, please?
Absolutely. Thank you, Mayor Lamson. To you, Mayor, to members of council. Before you today is just a short little report just to give you an update on the drive-on program. So the drive-on program is related to the safety program that trucks are done annually. So any trucks over a certain amount of weight, whether they're towing a trailer or they're a large tandem truck, they have to be inspected on a yearly basis. The Ministry of Transportation made changes to this process. One of the reasons for this was to ensure accountability across the board, not more specifically at municipalities, but at the, Joe Schmo garages and stuff like that. So the new program, basically the crux of the new program is that each MVIS motor vehicle inspection station will have a tablet now. So when you're completing your inspections, it'll be required pictures. It won't be on every single piece, such as a brake and stuff, but it'll be randomly throughout as you open up an inspection. I'm not sure, they haven't told us how they created the algorithm or anything like that, but You'll be going around, you'll take tires off, you may not have to take any pictures. Next truck you do, you might have to take 2 or 3 pictures. And it just allows them to ensure that when their inspector comes to that station, that they can pull up the tablet, they'll be able to verify that everything was done. If you don't take that picture, you can't complete the safety, which means you can't get your sticker, which means then that truck at the end, when that safety expires, can't go on the road. So the reason for this report is just to provide you a little bit of update. There is a small financial implication. However, the ongoing cost, the typical, if you're in the private industry, there's a cost for the stickers and stuff like that. But as a municipality, they give us an exemption, so there won't be any ongoing cost. It's just the initial cost to get that tablet set up and get us going that way. So any questions? I'm here to provide any answers.
Okay, does anyone have any questions? Go ahead, Councilor Brayberg.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Thanks very much, Evan. So does this improve efficiencies?
Not really. Through you, Mayor, I said to Councilor Brayberg. Not specifically. I mean, we still got to go through the process. Might be a little more cumbersome because now before we would record the information on a piece of paper, now it's done in a tablet. That might be a little bit more efficiently, but the big thing is that they just wanted to ensure that these trucks, if they need to get pictures taken, that they're actually getting taken instead of, before the private contractor could just go in, right? Oh yeah, the brakes are good, sign off, stickers on, down the road it goes. So efficiency, I don't think they're really looking at that. It's just more of accountability.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? I do like the idea of random pictures. That's kind of an interesting take on it. Go ahead, Councilor
I
Trent.
think that's actually a good move, and I would support the motion.
I know as having a commercial vehicle, I get it certified every year with every trailer. And sometimes you catch things, so it's kind of important to do that, in my view. Would you make that a motion, Councilor Trent?
Yes.
Okay, so a motion to support that recommendation and receive it?
Yes.
Do I have a seconder for that motion? See Councilor Cadigan for a seconder. Any other conversation? I'm seeing none. I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. Seems like a change that our province has made that might be of benefit.
Yep.
I like it. Okay, we can move on to 9.2 is recreation facilities. We have none. 9.3 is fire and emergency services. We have none. Item 9.4, building and planning. We have 9.4.1. Derek Bertram, our planning technician. Would you like to speak to this item, please?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Lamshead. On today's agenda, there's a report from the planning technician on behalf of Greg and Karen Lenny for an encroachment agreement. Since purchasing the property, the owners have crossed an unopened road allowance on Mississauga Lake to access their property as per the attached site plan. This agreement was an item identified by staff to support an upcoming zoning bylaw amendment, application number 2407. Staff have reviewed the application and recommend that council receive the encroachment agreement report for Greg and Karen Lenny and that authorize the Director of Building and Planning to execute the agreement and any documents that may be necessary to register on title once created.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Derek. Does anyone have any comments or questions? Seeing none. Is anyone prepared to make a motion? Councilor Brayberg, go ahead.
Thank you, through your mayor. I'll make a motion to support and also that council authorize the Director of Building and Planning / CBO to execute the encroachment agreement and any documents that may be necessary to register the title, register on title.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a seconder for that motion? Seeing Deputy Mayor Armstrong for a seconder. Any other conversation? I'm seeing none. I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. Okay, we can move on now to item 9.4.2 of our agenda, which is Barbara Waldron, our Director of Building and Planning and CBO. Would you like to speak to this item, please, Barbara?
Good afternoon, Mayor Lamshead and members of council, and through you, Mayor Lamshead. The report before you is to provide information for council regarding 2 exemption requests from bylaw B 2023-053, being the bylaw to regulate open air burning and fireworks. Recently, the fire department received 2 applications to review and approve from Supernova Fireworks to approve firework purchases and process for the 2 separate events, one being a fishing derby taking place at 197 Anchor Bay Road on June 22nd, and a wedding taking place at 543 Riverside Drive on July 13th, where fireworks are being ignited from a barge in Pigeon Lake. As the dates do not fall within the permitted timeframes for which the fireworks can be displayed, the fire department is not able to approve the applications. As such, the applicant is seeking an exemption from the bylaw for both events. Additional information since the preparation of this report has arrived from Trent Severn Waterway, as they were contacted for comment on the application for the fireworks taking place over the water, and provided a response on June 2nd with the following comment. For this upcoming event on July 13th, 2024, we are okay for you to rely on your more vigorous application permit, and we will not be providing one. We also appreciate being kept in the loop. Attached to this report are visual locations of where the fireworks will be set from and the impact area. Supernova Fireworks has provided very detailed plans and information to the fire department, of which they are satisfied with, and as well have processed applications through this company on previous occasions. Any additional information the fire department requires is approval of council to allow these two exemptions to section 2.17 of bylaw B 2023-053, being the section that states the timeframes and dates when fireworks are permitted to be displayed. In addition to council considering the approval of the exemptions, staff is seeking direction from council to address any future exemption requests, which would require the bylaw to be amended to provide for a process of which an exemption would be considered for an approval. We do have fire department staff in attendance to address any additional questions about the details of the display and the approval process. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Barbara. Anyone have any questions or comments? Go ahead, Councillor Brave.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. I don't want to be the person that puts the damper on any fireworks, that's for sure. I love fireworks. Just generally, is this an amendment request dealing specifically with this current request, the two requests, or in general?
This request is just to address these two specific exemptions. The third part of the recommendation was that if council wanted to direct staff to consider future exemptions, to put a process in the bylaw.
Okay, thank you. And through you, Mayor, and is this the first year for Anchor Bay requesting this amendment?
Is this?
Through you, Mayor. I'm here for support with Megan. It's her first meeting, but I'll speak to this. Just let her warm up.
Go ahead, Megan, you can speak to it. Don't be shy.
That's what we brought Megan for, because she's actually expert in this and deal with this. I'm just the signing authority. So I will let Megan speak to Councilor Ware.
Go ahead, Megan.
You can worry about it.
That's okay. That's what we're here to. We're here. I can speak for most of council. We don't bite, but some of them. Thank you, Megan.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Hello. May you repeat the question, please?
Sure. Through you, Mayor, if I may. I was just inquiring as to whether Anchor Bay, is this their first time applying for this type of request?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, this is not their first time having fireworks at the Derby. However, this is the first time outside of the dates set forward in the bylaw that this request is happening.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Through you, Mayor, sorry to make you have to walk up just for that, but it's all in the experience, right? So, thanks very much.
You might as well stay there. You may have more questions. Anyone else have any other questions?
So just finish off, and I'll let Councilor Cadigan take the floor. My comments are, I'm all for fireworks and celebrations. My concerns are as follows. The fireworks that are to be set off from a barge on Pigeon Lake, where are the spent fireworks landing? And the only reason I say that, I just have concerns for the aquatic life and the health of our lakes. Generally, the fireworks that are being set from the ground, where are the spent fireworks landing? I appreciate that other municipalities are somewhat lax in their restrictions on fireworks. I also realize that we've had a wet spring, I'm just leery about the spent fireworks landing in an area that is just waiting for a spark to start a fire. I realize the municipality has received these types of requests in the past and have been approved. However, previous requests, which has been confirmed by your comments, have been requested within the parameters that were in place. I'm alive to the fact that my concerns could also occur on the 4 occasions when fireworks are permitted. It is simply a case of holding to our permitted occasions and within the permitted time frame and not start allowing fireworks outside of these times. So I just have a general concern for it. Love fireworks, but we do have our set times, and these 2 requests sort of fall outside that. So I would like to see us remain within our existing regulations, and that's really, so I would not support this.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Franzen, go ahead.
I think I'm a little bit opposite Councillor Braybrook. I don't think fireworks are a good idea at any occasion, but I do support the 4 occasions that the municipality has deemed appropriate time for fireworks. And I wouldn't support deviating from our policy.
Okay, and I see Deputy Mayor Armstrong.
Thank you, Mayor Lamson. I am in total agreement with Councillor Franzen. We did move in the last term of council to restrict fireworks to 4 weekends during the year. And there were some very strong reasons for that. We decided not to ban fun entirely. So it was a bit of a compromise to allow people to still enjoy those kinds of occasions. However, I think what we have all learned over time is that fireworks have a lot of downsides. There are chemicals in the fireworks themselves that go into the water or onto the ground. They are very disruptive of habitat. The noise is very disruptive to both wildlife and domestic life. Anybody who has a dog that is sensitive to noise would know that. And there is a fire hazard. So cognizant of all of those reasons, we put through the restriction. I don't see anything exceptional about these 2 applications that would make them unique. And so approving them, in my mind, would simply open the doors for anybody, for any reason, to apply to have fireworks outside of the 4 restricted weekends. So I think we did it for a good reason. We should continue to support it, and we should deny these applications. Thank you.
Does anyone else have any comments? Councillor Gadd, go ahead.
I was going to ask the same question, John, through you, Mayor, as Ma'am said. I was going to ask the same question as Councillor Braybrook, sorry. And it was about mitigation of material going into the lakes. And I'm not sure whether you have an answer to that, but my guess is that there is no mitigation, and that heavy metals and firework debris are going to go in our lake, which is pollution. And I think that we have to stand against that and say no.
Okay. Did you want to reply to that at all? Because there really wasn't a question there, but.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no.
Okay, thank you. Okay. All right. Anyone prepared to make a motion then? Have any more conversation? Go ahead.
I'd be prepared to make a motion to deny the 2 applications.
Okay. Do I have a seconder for that motion? I see Deputy Mayor Armstrong for a seconder. Any other conversation? I'm seeing none. I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. We will be denying those applications. Okay, thank you, Council. We can move on now to item 9.4.3 of our agenda, which is the Del Arbor, our planner. Would you like to come to the podium and speak to this item? Please.
Thank you, and through you, Mayor Lambshead. This report is in reference to the delegation of authority to planning staff to submit certain applications of municipal appraisal forms directly to the County of Peterborough. And it directly relates to consents. As council is aware, staff continue to look for ways to improve and streamline planning processes. For the consent process, the Municipality of Trent Lakes is a commenting agency, providing comments to the approval authority, being the County of Peterborough. Currently, staff provide completed MAFs to council for approval before forwarding them to the county. The requested delegation to planning staff is to enable the submission of comments directly to the county regarding uncomplicated and straightforward consent applications. These would be applications that comply with official plan policies, where there are no objections, and may require a minor amendment to the zoning bylaw to recognize deficient lot frontage, size, or more appropriate zone category of a proposed lot or lots. Staff will continue to seek council input for the more complicated consent applications. Therefore, it's being recommended that council receive the report from the planner regarding the delegation of authority to submit municipal comments concerning consents to the approval authority, and further that council support the delegation to planning staff as it relates to making recommendations directly to the Peterborough County Land Division for straightforward consents which are in compliance to the official plan as to whether the municipality supports the consent application and any conditions to be imposed. And further, that council directs staff to bring forward delegation bylaw to a future council meeting for consideration. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Adele. Does anyone have any questions of Adele? Deputy Mayor Armstrong, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Lampson. Adele, why is it that the county is the final authority for consent applications? Is that legislated through the province, or is that an agreement that we have between the municipality and the county? As I read this, I'm certainly in support of what you're proposing, anywhere we can streamline it, but that got me thinking even further as to why does the county have the authority for this?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm not sure when that came into effect, but I know there are many consent and minor variance authorities that are combined with that kind of jurisdiction. But here within the county of Peterborough, it's the County Land Division Committee that looks after consents, and each municipality looks after minor variances. So I think it's just historically been like that.
Interesting. So if I can just follow up, so it is something that could be changed theoretically by county council if they thought that was an appropriate move.
And I think there's like 137 consent applications right now in Peterborough County, so it's not a minor event. It happens quite often.
No, but if you divide that by 8 municipalities,
then
you're talking, 15 apiece. So it's not that many, and it would go a whole lot faster if we had only one level of government dealing with it. But I'll take that away as a member of county council.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, if I could add, there would also have to be training for the secretary treasurer because they would be in charge of processing consent applications and approvals. And it's not a straightforward process. And I would suggest that with these planning staff that are in the municipalities within the county of Peterborough, that I would recommend that we leave the consent process with the counties.
Okay, fair enough.
Understood. Thank you for that. Thanks, Carol.
Go ahead, Councillor Brayber.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Just a comment, Adele. I'm pleased to see this come before council today, and I say that because I've had many conversations with constituents who've expressed their frustration over the seemingly arduous process to building their dwellings. I like the following sentence that you've included, which is overall, the focus of delegated authority is to collectively work towards a more efficient municipal planning approval process that better serves the public. And I believe this is what our goal and mantra should be as it relates to our building and planning. I realize there's processes, however. These processes should be constituent friendly. After all, we are a community and we should all be pulling together to build our community and strengthen it, and make it more viable and solve it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for your comment. Any other comments from council? I'm seeing none. I am all for streamlining of processes and things. I think this will take one small step out of the process, which could be, if we miss one meeting, it could be a month before it gets in front of council. I don't think there's a need on the simple applications. Is anyone prepared to make a motion? seeing Deputy Mayor Armstrong, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Lamson. I'll go ahead and make the motion that council receive the report, that we support the delegation to planning staff as it relates to making recommendations for straightforward consents, and that council directs staff to bring forward a delegation bylaw to a future council.
Do I have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Cadigan for a seconder. Any other conversation? I'm seeing none. I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. We can move on to item 9.4.4 of our agenda. And Barbara Waldron, our Director of Building and Planning, CBO, would you like to speak to this item, please?
Through you, Mayor Lambshead. I, along with other staff, have been working really hard to update the current bylaw, being bylaw 2017-004, to achieve the following goals. 1, be in compliance with the Ontario Building Code Act and regulations for the current code and the recent code that has been approved by the provincial government and will come into full force and effect January 1st, 2025. 2, to create a bylaw with clear and concise information, including detailed schedules which clearly identify the process and the requirements to obtain building permits and to the completion of the permit. 3, to bring into the bylaw information relating to Cloud Permit, the digital platform used for processing permits. 4, to bring into the bylaw septic permit issuance and inspection requirements. And 5, to have the document reflect the procedures that the building department currently completes. As stated in my report, this bylaw has been thoroughly vetted by the municipal solicitor, and they are satisfied that this is a well-detailed and enforceable document. In addition to the main body of the bylaw that speaks to the processes and references the OBC and the Act, Schedules D, E, and F respectively have been created to have precise lists of information to assist the public as to what type of construction requires a building permit, what you need to submit for a complete application, and what is required to be submitted on a site plan. The information in these schedules will also be used on our website building page and handouts at the counter to assist the public. Having them to the public will not only assist them to be able to be informed as to what is required for the specific permit they are looking for, it will also reduce staff time explaining what is needed for a permit, as the applicant can be emailed or handed a specific list that is applicable to their purposed project. Schedule F has been created to have detailed site plan lists, as this assists staff to see the entire situation on the lands to ensure that when reviewing the permit, there are no other issues that need to be addressed. A common issue that we see over and over is that the proposed construction is too close to an overhead hydro line. So asking for this to be included on the site plan is just going to fix the issue faster or just deem it not to be an issue at all. Having a site plan really assists in moving an application along quicker, as the site plan achieves the requirements for planning pre-consults, and the same site plan can be carried out throughout the entire process if planning and building both apply. My report speaks to some areas that have been updated or are new to the bylaw. I will be pleased to answer any questions or provide clarity to the document for your approval. I would like to take this opportunity to thank Bianca and Jesse for their hard work on this bylaw, as they spent a lot of time formatting, because that is not my area of expertise. The recommendation that we are seeking is that council receive the report from the Director of Building and Planning and Chief Building Official regarding the updating of the building bylaw report, and further that council supports the proposed building bylaw appended to this report.
Okay, thank you very much, Barbara. Does anyone on council have any questions? Go ahead, Councillor Braber.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. Just one comment and one question. In section 13.2 regarding the online applications, it's nice to see that the municipality is again taking into consideration processes that works with the applicant, as opposed to leaving those without experience or technology to flounder, so to speak. So thank you for that. And I know I appreciate it. I went through the cloud. I'm still going through it, the cloud permit, and it was a little bit challenging. I think that was more on the operators and than anything else. Question, as it relates to open paper files, it states that there's approximately 400 to 500 open paper files and 428 open cloud permit files. How long would this take to clear up, and do you need additional staffing to address this item to clear them up?
If we could clear them all up in 1 year, I would say yes, I need additional staff, but it's really, sorry, through you, Mary, I'm so sorry. It's really up to the applicant to be able to reach out to us, to say, yes, my project's done, please come and look at it. And if that's the case, we go there, look at it, and we do not apply a charge. We simply want to get these files closed. But if they keep renewing it, and I'm not ready, we have no control over that. Ideally, I would love to get 50% of them closed per year. Like of all of the permits I issue in a year, I would like 50% closed at the end of the year, for sure.
Just a final comment. And I understand, and I know it was mentioned in your report here that a lot of times it's financial too, right? It's unfortunate, it's an unfortunate animal, but we're sort of all at the mercy of the economy and that sort of thing. So it's good. So we appreciate your office taking that into consideration as well. So.
Through you, Mary Lamb, so just a response to your first comment. A lot of the other municipalities are charging people to do that. I don't feel that that is fair to do that. That's one of the reasons we got the machine that we have, so that we can assist public. So that will not be a fee that I will be imposing. That's part of customer service.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? I must admit that I have had a little computer issue, and I have not been able to go through the entire bylaw, all 7 sections. So my apologies. I would have had a lot more questions, but I could not open that part of the file, and I only just did that about 11 o'clock today. So I have not been able to. It's up to council if they would like to keep going and ask questions. Please go ahead if you like. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Armstrong.
Yeah, thank you, Marilyn. So it probably is a build on what you're saying. This is not my area of expertise. Most of us don't go through this very often. I was actually going to suggest that we defer this. I too need a little bit more time to go through it. I would like to run it by a couple of people to see, does it make sense to them? It needs to be a user-friendly document, and I know you've tried to do that. But I'd like to test it out, kind of like you would do with any process in an organization, and just get the feedback from the general public, not through public meeting, but just test it out with a couple of people. So I applaud this. This is fantastic. We needed something where it was very clear what was required of people when they come with an application to the Planning and Building Department. We set expectations that are very clear from the beginning. And that's exactly, I think, what we want to do to streamline this whole process. So I support it 200%. For me, I need more time to review it personally. And I do think I need people with greater expertise, like our mayor and others, to go through it and provide their feedback as well. So actually, I will make a motion to defer this to our next meeting.
Okay. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Franzen for a seconder. Any other conversations? I'm seeing none. I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion is carried. We will defer that to our next meeting. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Barbara. Okay, we can move on now to item 9.5 of our agenda, which is finance. 9.5.1. Donna Taggart, our CEO Treasurer, would you like to speak to this item, please?
Thank you, and through you. So before you is a report that was requested after a notice of motion presented to council at the April 16th regular meeting by Councillor Franzen. Staff were directed to obtain a legal opinion on adding the Buckhorn Community Center as a line item to the annual municipal budget. So council typically, just as a reminder, awards approximately $50,000 a year under the community grant program. The Buckhorn Community Center has received almost $120,000 over the past 5 years, or an average of almost $24,000 annually, which equates to 48% of overall funds available under this program. I have provided the legal opinion for you in the report on providing a guaranteed amount to the Buckhorn Community Center. The municipal solicitor identified some persuasive reasons in the notice of motion for providing this type of funding to the BCC. Comment was provided that currently annual grant funding is entirely discretionary for council and there are no specific amounts guaranteed. There was also comment that guaranteed funding for one organization could establish a precedent for other grant recipients to seek similar arrangements, although council could always modify amounts annually. Comment was also provided that as a municipality has been providing grants for many years to the BCC, this type of arrangement would not likely be considered bonusing under Section 106. There is the ability for the municipality to provide funding under Section 107 of the Municipal Act, but this funding cannot be made to manufacturing business or industrial or commercial enterprises. It is staff's recommendation that funding amounts for all organizations applying annually should be based on the approved community grant policy, which includes an application and scoring matrix. It is also staff's opinion that providing a guaranteed amount annually to the BCC and then potentially modifying it could result in a hardship. I have provided two options for council consideration today, and both would result in financial support continuing to flow to the BCC. So option one would be that council include an amount which would be determined by council in the annual budget for the BCC, and further that council directs staff to prepare a memorandum of understanding between the municipality and the BCC to clarify that annual funding must be used for a specific purpose or event and not general operating costs. And further that funding available under the community grant policy be reduced to an annual maximum instead of the 0.60% of the previous year's levy. And this amount would be determined by council. Or option two is that funding under the community grant policy be determined annually in keeping with the policy. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Donna. Anyone have any comments or questions? Go ahead, Councillor Braybrook.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Thanks very much, Donna. After reviewing your report, I'm in favor of option one. And with that said, and the average over the years being 20,000, or you said around 24,000.
Yes.
So I'd be in favor of 20,000. And I would support that being put in a line item for the, I'll call it the BCC for a short acronym for the Buckhorn Community Center, which is obviously will be subject to the terms that are laid out in the memorandum of understanding. And I know you mentioned if it fluctuated over the years, that could be built into the MOU. The BCC should know they shouldn't be relying on 20,000 each year. I mean, they should know that at some point, the stipulation in the MOU, you know, we may have to pull back a certain amount per year. So I don't see that as an issue. The key takeaways for me from the legal opinion is that although a yearly line item amount would be enjoyed by the BCC, there could be safeguards built into the MOU so as to allow the municipality the ability to modify any amounts should the need arise and not bind the municipality legally to provide monetary support to the BCC. And my last comment is I push back a little bit on the opinion that this practice could invite precedents in similar organizations. I believe that BCC is a unique organization in that there is no other similar organization in the municipality that mirrors the BCC where size, events, activities, and the amount of residents it services is concerned. Residents and visitors from neighboring municipalities have come to rely on the BCC for various events and activities that the BCC provides. The BCC enjoys the services of over 300 volunteers, the most I would hazard a guess in the municipality. So I think it's a worthwhile cause, and with the appropriate safeguards in place for the municipality. But I think it's a good cause.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Braybrook. Any other comments or questions? Go ahead, Councillor France.
I support Councillor Braybrook's comments. I was going to make some very similar comments, so and I do support option one.
Okay, Councillor Cadigan, go ahead.
I'll speak in favor of option 2. I think that we have a funding matrix in place that we just started last year that we're just working out kinks in. I think it's worth trying it for a couple more years. I worry about in the future if we don't have the funding. I know that the MOU could speak to that, but I think it's complicating things for the person looking after our funds, our treasurer. So I would like to keep with option 2 as it is now.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor Armstrong, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Lamson. I'm in agreement with Councillor Cadigan for a couple of reasons. First of all, I think it's important for us to see the financial statements of the recipient of a grant. It's taxpayer money. I think they like to see how their money is spent. I realize there could be an MOU where there's an agreement up front to spend the money on certain things, but nothing talks like a financial statement. So it's the actual accountability. The second thing is, I'm not so sure they're unique. They're different, but they are a not-for-profit organization that serves our community. No different than community care, the food bank, Kawartha Land Trust, KLSA, many others that come to us for money through our grant process, which I think works very well, and we continue to improve. And the third thing is, it really doesn't accomplish anything. They don't know how much money they're going to get today. They don't know how much money they're going to get tomorrow. And if it's part of the grants process, then we go through a thorough review of how much money we have, who needs it most in our community, and then we make a decision based on that, where to allocate the monies to best serve our community. And those things change from year to year. So I really support continuing to have them be part of our community grants program. I do want to say I have enormous respect and support the BCC. I think they do a fantastic job. I just don't think that we should be starting to pluck individual not-for-profit organizations out and give them special treatment, because they all serve a purpose, some on the social side, some on the food side, basic need. So we start to make distinctions that don't exist.
Thank you very much for your comments. Any other comments? Seeing none, I just have a couple myself. I do agree with option 2. We do this process for a reason. The BCC supplies a fantastic amount of programs for this municipality, and we support them. So if we're going to incorporate in our memorandum of understanding that it may not be as much as what we're going to say, then we're not changing anything from what we're doing now. So if we don't have the money, then we don't give them the money. So if we have it, we give it to them. So I don't think that it's necessary to change any process that we're doing now. This is working very well. The new process is in its infancy. We're going to know a little better about it in a couple of years, but I think it worked well last year. Everyone got a fair share. We've had many thank yous from many organizations for how we do our grant monies, and I think it's important to continue that for a few more years. That's my opinion. Okay. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Armstrong.
Then I will make a motion to receive the report and that funding to the BCC continue to be provided under the community grant program.
Okay, do I have a seconder for that motion? I see Councillor Cadigan for a seconder. Any other conversation? Seeing none, I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. Okay, we can move on to 9.5.2 of our agenda, which is Donna Taggart, our CIO treasurer. Can you please come to the podium and speak into the mic? Can you speak to this item, please?
Thank you, and through you. So yes, so before you is the accounts payable for May. For your information, you will see that we continue to push towards electronic payments as much as possible, and we will continue to do that. So I do realize there are some duplicate pages in the attached report. Thank you, Councillor. Deputy Mayor Armstrong.
Yep, yeah.
So anyway, yes, for your information.
you very much. Anyone have any questions of Donna regarding the accounts payable? I do enjoy the fact that it's getting more electronic. I'm seeing no questions. Is anyone prepared to make a motion? See Councillor Brayberg for a mover and Councillor Cadigan for a seconder. Sorry, should ask for what your motion is.
Sorry, to receive, motion to receive.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Brayberg. And Councillor Cadigan is a seconder. Any other conversation? I'm seeing none. I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. Thank you very much, Donna Taggart. We can move on to item 9.6 of our agenda, which is administration. We have none. Item 9.7, corporate services. 9.7.1, Bianca Dragicevic, our deputy clerk. Would you like to speak to this item, please?
Thank you, and through you, Mayor Lambshead. Before you are the council expenses submitted for the month of May for council's review and authorization. Thank you.
Anyone have any comments or questions in regards to? Did you notice, anyone notice that there's some in there for me for the first time? And it's absolutely not my doing. Thank you very much, Adele Arbor, our senior planner. We attended the Eastern Ontario Housing Summit, and it was a fantastic conference. Thank you for that. Okay. Go ahead, Councillor Cadigan.
Motion to pay expenses.
Okay, do I have a seconder for that motion? See Councillor Braybrick for a seconder. Any other conversation? I'm seeing none. I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. Catch up to myself here. We can move on now to item 9.7.2 of our agenda. Jesse Clark, our Director of Corporate Services Clerk, would you like to speak to this item?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Lambshead. Stephen and Marianne Hussar are requesting to purchase a portion of the unopened road allowance adjacent to their property, known municipally as 135 Bessie Avenue North. Their intention is to create more of a nature buffer between their neighbor to the south by preserving the land and working towards a carbon neutral footprint. The sale of this unopened road allowance is in accordance with the policy, as the road allowance does not provide an existing or potential public access to a lake by leading to the water's edge and is not necessary to accommodate future transportation needs. Staff, the recommendation is that council receive the report, support the application to purchase the unopened road allowance, and that council direct staff to proceed with the application process and advise the applicant they will be responsible for all costs.
Okay, thank you very much, Jesse Clark. Anyone have any questions or comments of Jesse? See Councillor Braver, go ahead.
I was going to make a motion to receive, or do you want to wait?
Sure.
Okay, make a motion to receive the report, and that council support the application to purchase the unopened road allowance, and that council direct staff to proceed with the application process and advise the applicant they will be responsible for all costs. So just wanted to make that comment. I appreciate the Hussars' intention to maintain it as a sort of wildlife and not alter it. So appreciate that.
Okay. And do I have a seconder for that motion?
I'll second that motion.
Councillor Franzen. Now we can have conversation. Any other conversation? Seeing none, I would just like to reiterate what Councillor Rubrick said. It's, you know, the great intention to have a more carbon neutral footprint and have some vegetative buffers between you and your neighbor. It's a great idea. Okay. Any other conversation? I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. Okay. Thank you very much, Jesse Clark. We can move on to 9.7.3 of our agenda, which is Jesse Clark, our Director of Corporate Services Clerk. Would you please speak to this item?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Lambshead, at the May 21st regular council meeting, council directed staff to proceed with an application from Ralph Butts to purchase a portion of the road allowance adjacent to their property. A notice was placed in accordance with the disposal of real property policy, and no objections have been received. Staff are recommending that council receive the report, declare a portion of the road allowance as surplus to the needs of the municipality, authorize the stop-up and closure of the road allowance, authorize the sale, and authorize the mayor and clerk to execute any documents necessary to effect the sale.
Okay, thank you very much, Jesse Clark. Any conversation, any questions? Go ahead.
Motion to receive and to support, and support the recommendations from staff.
Okay. Do I have a seconder for that motion? You see Councillor Cadigan for a seconder. Any other conversation? I'm seeing none. I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. Okay, thank you very much. We can move on now to item 10 of our agenda, which is correspondence for information. 10.1 is the Cavendish Culture and Recreation Committee minutes. You want to speak to that, or would you like to make a motion? Motion to receive. Do I have a seconder for that motion? I see Councillor Braber for a seconder. Any other conversation? I'm seeing none. I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. We can move on now to item 11 of our agenda, which is correspondence for action. We have 11.1, 11.2, and 11.3. We could receive them all at one time, or we can speak about them. Oh, I think we have a funding request.
Yeah.
We might want to look at one and, yeah, we might want to go through these all at one time. Okay, item 11.1, City of Peterborough. Go ahead, Councillor Braber.
Motion to receive.
Do I have a seconder for that motion? Deputy Mayor Armstrong for a seconder. Any conversation? I'm seeing none. I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. We go on to 11.2, which is the Kinmount Canada Day Committee funding request. Would anyone like to speak to that? And go ahead, Councillor France.
Yeah, I just want to ask a question through you, Mayor, to our clerk CAO or CAO treasurer. Have we provided funds in the past, Donna?
So thank you and through you. So there were funds provided through a grant that the municipality applied for every year for the 3 organizations that do have fireworks. So there were a couple of years there where they each received $1,000 because of that grant. The last time money was given was $400 in 2022. And before that, there were amounts of about 150 in 2014, 15, 16 sort of thing. But the money has been coming through that grant, and we did notify them a few years ago that we were not going to apply for that anymore on their behalf. So yes, the last time money was provided was $400 in 2022.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor France.
I'd like to make a motion that we provide $400 to the Kinmount Canada Day Committee.
Okay, do I have a seconder for that motion? And then I'll have a question for our. Anyone second that motion to supply $400 for the Canada Day? It is Canada Day, we're going. I will second that motion. Okay, now I just want to know if we have funds available in a couple of different little spots to our.
So thank you and through you. So council does have a miscellaneous grant fund that has not been spent this year. So that has $3,976.70. So you could use that for this funding.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other comments or questions? Go ahead, Councillor Braber.
Thank you through you, Mayor. I'm just interested, I don't know if Donna, you would have this amount, how much Heritage Canada, how much the contribution was reduced by for this year. I don't know if, I'm sure the Kinmount would have the information. I don't know whether you would be able to speak to that.
Right. So thank you and through you. No, I wouldn't be able to. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, it's unfortunate because I mean, you want to, I mean, this is an event that's been going on for decades and decades. I mean, it's important that we support, I would support the 400. It's just it'd be interesting to see how much their shortfall is, just for a more accurate assessment.
Yes, for sure. Okay, any other comments? Go ahead.
Thank you, Armstrong. Are the Kinmount Fairgrounds on Trent Lake's property? I mean, are they in the municipality?
Yep.
Yes. They are.
And so they would have to apply for a fireworks license or fireworks permit.
Through you, I'm hearing from behind me that
I seen some.
they're one of the exemptions because I don't think we have fire with them.
I understand, sorry, I understand it's on one of our designated holidays, but it's a commercial fireworks display, I assume. And so I assume that they would need a permit for that, which would have to go to our fire department. I'm assuming because it's within a designated holiday, that does not have to come to council. I'm making a lot of assumptions here. And so I think we just need to understand this a little bit better. If it came to council, would we approve it? You know, I guess because it's within our designated weekend.
I don't think it
makes
would.
sense.
Right?
Anyway, a lot of things need to happen before it's approved fully by Trent Lakes.
Councillor Franzen, go ahead.
We're talking July 1st, weekend, 2 weeks away. I don't think either we approve it or we don't. If we don't approve it, if we decide we need more information, we won't be approving it in time.
Okay, we have a motion and we have a seconder and we've had some conversation. I just want to make sure that they know that that was my nickname in football. Deputy Mayor Ramshead.
Yes, I saw that.
I want to make sure we get that clarified. I did not play football in Canada.
For that reason alone, sorry.
Yeah.
For that reason alone, Maryland said, we should decline it.
Yeah, fair.
Kidding.
Okay, I'm going to call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. Thank you very much. And we can take it out of that.
Maryland said, may I just add
Yes, go
to
ahead.
that we should advise them that they will need a permit. It's commercial.
Ask our, let's make sure we ask staff to touch base with them about a permit. Okay. Thank you very much for bringing that to our attention, Deputy Mayor Armstrong. Okay, I'm still giggling about my nickname. My apologies to everyone. Okay, we can move on to item 11.3 of our agenda, Lakehurst Hall Board. Significant event application. Go ahead, Councillor Braybrook. I assumed you would have wanted to.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, through you. I'll speak to this application. The Festival of Small Halls is a renowned outfit that travels the province in search of desirable locations to host their music festival. Over the years, some big names have been a part of this festival, namely Chantal Kreviasak and Glass Tiger, to name a couple. And I apologize if I'm dating myself. And I'm sure that the other 40 musical groups are high profile as well. Those are just the two that pop into my head. Last October was the first event held in the municipality at Lakehurst Hall. It is a testament how successful it was that the organizers want to return again this October. This could be the start of something special and highlights our municipality. I would like to see our other two municipal halls also take part, if at all possible, and should the organizers see fit. So I think it's an opportunity to highlight all our halls, Galway, Cavendish, and Lakehurst. And it would be nice to sort of share that. Well, maybe we can get two for next year, maybe, or three in all the halls. So I would support this application.
Thank you very much for those comments, Councillor Braybrook. Do I have, did you make that a motion or was that a?
Yes, I'll make it a motion to support the.
I'll second it.
We have this Councillor Cadigan for a seconder. Any other conversation? I'm seeing none. I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. Look forward to that event. Okay, we can move on now to item 12, bylaws of our agenda. And we have made a deferral of the decision on 12.1, so that will stand deferred until our next meeting. We can move on to item 13 of our agenda, which is business arising out of a previous meeting. Does anyone have any business arising out of a previous meeting? I alluded to this conference that Adele Arbor and myself attended, the Eastern Ontario Housing Summit. It was an interesting event. Lots of conversation, communications around building and migration of people. It's amazing how many people are moving to Ottawa because it's less expensive than Toronto to have, how considerably less expensive in Ottawa, which is surprising to many of us. There was lots of good information that both Adele and I accumulated that day. Okay, that was it for me. Go ahead, Councillor Cadigan.
There is a carnival coming up in Cavendish on Saturday, July 20th, I believe.
Yes, it is.
Ball tournament, pickleball tournament, first we've had of those. Bake sale, book sale, kids games, and flea market as well. So if anybody's in the area would like to drop in, it's usually a fun day. Food will be provided.
The This is probably your, how many annual? It's many, many years of doing this.
I'm thinking 40 years, but
Yeah, I think I've run the ball tournament for 35 of them. Go ahead, Councillor
Thank
Brayber.
you through you, Mayor, and to Councillor Cadigan. What time is that?
it starts maybe 9 o'clock in the morning when the first ball game starts. The ball will be starting early as well.
And through you, Mayor, as well to Councillor Cadigan. Is this advertised like on our municipal website?
Just on the 507, but that's a good idea. I wonder if I can get it included in the July. Yeah. I don't believe it is yet, but I'll see if I can get it sent in.
Yeah, that'd be a great opportunity for me to sort of advertise and in Harvey to have some
Come along.
Harveyites attend the Cavendish.
We are not, we are all Trent Lakes.
We are. I represent Harvey. Thank you very much. Through you, Mayor.
You represent everybody in Trent.
I do.
That's right. Thank you for that, Councillor Brave.
Thank you, sir.
Any other business arising out of a previous meeting?
I just want to make a comment on the event. I believe that Buckhorn Community Center does advertise events that don't happen at the Buckhorn Community Center.
Yes.
They're willing to advertise the event that happens in Galway. So I think it would be good to get on their website.
Get a flyer. Okay.
Made me
Just
think of something.
contact Judy.
Okay. Good idea. Thank you very much, Councillor Franzen, for that. Any other business arising? I'm seeing no hands. We can move on to notices of motion. Does anyone have a notice of motion? I'm seeing none. Item 15 is there information items. I'm seeing none. I think we did all that in business arising out of a previous meeting.
Oh.
Yes, go ahead, Deputy Mayor Armstrong.
Thank you, Mayor Lamson. I am not sure of the timing. I'm losing track of that, but I just wanted to point out that there was a mayor's breakfast a little while ago at the Burley Falls Inn, and Mayor Lambshead represented us along with the mayor of North Kawartha, Selwyn, and Dummer, and that he represented us very proudly and very well.
Thank you.
So I just wanted to point, it was a great turnout.
Yes.
I don't know,
Many,
50, 60 people.
many back and forth great questions.
Yeah.
I didn't take the leg cramp I was thinking I was going to have.
Oh, yeah, yeah, they were sort of sitting up on these high chairs on a very thin platform. We were all sitting there waiting for whatever to fall off any moment, but nobody did.
Yeah, it was well attended, as you said. It was a great event. I would like to do that again. It's great. Thank you for bringing that up, Deputy Mayor Armstrong. Okay, we can move on to item 16 of our agenda, which is our closed meeting. I would entertain an option to go into our closed session. Go ahead.
So move.
Okay, do I have a seconder? Councillor Brayber for a seconder.
Bye.
Okay, bye-bye. Thank you for attending. I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion is carried. Oh, I gotta tell you, we're going into closed session under section 239 to discuss C, a proposed or pending acquisition of disposition plan by the municipality or local board, proposed acquisition, and E, litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board, statement of claim. We are now in closed. Okay, we can move on now to item 16.2 of our agenda, rise from closed meeting. I would entertain a motion for same. I see Deputy Mayor Armstrong for a mover, Councillor Cadigan for a seconder. I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion is carried. We can move on to item 17, business arising out of our closed meeting. 17.1 is the adoption of the minutes from our closed meeting. I see Councillor Cadigan for a mover and Councillor Brayber for a mover, my apologies, and Councillor Cadigan for a seconder. Any conversation about the minutes? I'm seeing none. We can call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. We can move on to item 18 of our agenda, which is the adoption of the confirming bylaw. 18.1 is the confirming bylaw. I would entertain a motion. Councillor Cadigan for a mover. Deputy Mayor Armstrong for a seconder. I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. We can move on to item 19 of our agenda, which is adjournment. Would anyone like to make a motion to adjourn? See Councillor Franzen for a mover. We're going to stay all night. I need a seconder. Deputy Mayor Armstrong for a seconder. I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. We are adjourned. Thank you very much for council, staff, and everybody that came in the gallery, both virtually and physically.